Hey guys, how's it going? Stoud Man coming back at you again today, and we are going to talk about the I Am Legend series of movies. There were three movies that were inspired by this same story. The first one was Last Man on Earth starring Vincent Price. The second one was Omega Man here starring Charlton Heston. And the third one here was I Am Legend starring Will Smith. They also had a movie called I Am Omega that was based on the same story, but I haven't seen it, and quite frankly, from what I've seen, there's no reason to. I might watch it eventually, but right now I just didn't feel like it. I felt like watching the three that I knew would be good, because I've already seen The Last Man on Earth, and I've already seen this. The only one I hadn't seen yet was The Omega Man. And I just wanted to go back through and watch them again and see what I thought of all of them. So I started off with The Last Man on Earth, and sure enough, man, that is such a good movie. Like I said, I've already seen that movie, but every time I watch it, I feel like it gets better with age. Not a whole lot better, but it does get better with age. The more you see it, the more you appreciate what they're trying to do with it, and you just see things here and there that it's like that kind of inspired other things that came afterward, and you see things that are clearly references to movies that came before it and tropes and whatnot. But it also creates a lot of things that you didn't really see before. There's a sense of hopelessness to that movie that kind of reminds me of the hopelessness that you see in the Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and stuff like that movies. That kind of hopelessness, it wasn't always in the earlier horror movies, but when you go to a movie like The Last Man on Earth, you see it there. You see that there's this guy he's fending off all of these zombies, or vampires rather. In that movie they're vampires. And he's doing everything he can to get rid of them, to eradicate them, because he's trying to eradicate the contagion that's causing the disease that brings them back to life. That's at least the thinking that he's going through. And it starts off in this movie as him being kind of like a scientist, or somebody who used to be a scientist. And he was a scientist that was not necessarily behind the creation. I don't think he was behind the creation of this whole problem, but he was a scientist trying to cure it. And because of that, there's this whole sense that the zombies don't like him in particular, because he's somebody who was trying to cure this disease, and they don't necessarily see it as a disease. The zombies don't see it as a disease. And that becomes clear when he runs into somebody who has been treated with something that makes them less zombie-like, even though they are technically a part of that crowd. So that person kind of lets the cat out of the bag and lets them know they're trying to come and kill you. They're planning to come and kill you because you've been killing them. And they are alive. So there's this whole idea that he unintentionally has been killing living beings, thinking that they were all the Walking Dead, essentially. Not to, reference the show or anything like that, but he thought they were all dead and just reanimated, when in reality they were alive, but living a, to him, terrifying life. To them, it was just a new way of living, essentially. So that's kind of where that name comes from. That's where the legend comes from. The legend of this Neville character who has been trying to eradicate them from existence. He's the bad guy. The guy that you're supposed to be rooting for, per se, in the movie is actually the bad guy. It kind of flips the script on you. And I think that's really cool. And of course, you got Vincent Price in the main role. Very well done, as always. And the movie's very well shot, and even modern audiences would appreciate this. And of course, as I said in a past video, you can actually watch this for free if you download it off of archive.org because it's in the public domain. So that's nice. That's how I watched it. In fact, I downloaded it off the public domain and watched it that way. Didn't pay a dime for it. I'm sure at some point I'll get like a DVD copy of it or something just for posterity's sake, but it's nice to be able to just, freely and legally download a movie like that, a movie that good in particular. But then afterward, I moved on, of course, to The Omega Man. And honestly, I can see how this movie went on to inspire I Am Legend a lot, because it starts off with Charlton Heston acting kind of like a self-entitled prick almost. He's driving down Main Street in the nicest car he can find. Yeah, he's kind of talking to himself here and there, kind of showing the signs of going a little bit cuckoo in the head, but, he's not necessarily a bad guy. He hasn't been in civilization for a long time. And he's fighting off the zombies slash vampires just like the Neville character was in the original Last Man on Earth, right? Just like he was in the original story as well. But this time around, the zombies slash vampires are actually, well spoken. They have white eyes, white face, and when they're first turned, they are kind of zombie-like, right? They just, right? But that doesn't mean they're incapable of thought. In fact, there are people who have created this whole cult within their little newly formed society of zombies slash vampires, and the leaders of this cult are they act like everyday average normal people, just people who believe fervently, almost religiously, that Neville's a bad guy and that this all happened for a reason. And, it's just got this weird, crazy religious cult kind of feel to it, right? But the main point here I'm trying to make is that the characters, the zombies, are actually, walking, talking human beings that just so happen to be infected slash dead, or it is believed that they are dead, but they're infected with this disease. And Charlton Heston's character, of course, is trying to kill them, and they don't like him for that, so they attack him all the freaking time, right? But he doesn't really get why they are doing that. He just kind of attacks them back because he thinks they're all the dead come back to life. He thinks they're all monsters, when again, in reality, he's the monster. But they don't really play that up as much in this movie. They do the whole twist thing, but you have to kind of rely on the concept that the zombies aren't the bad ones in order to really understand the twist in the movie. Because he also runs into a group of other people who are survivors who have not been infected, or if they have been infected, they have not yet turned. So he's working on a serum from his own blood to be able to help turn them back into normal human beings, and it actually ends up working on one of them, so he's about to turn the other when things get crazy. And it's just the zombies in this one do something reprehensible that it's like, okay, you want us to believe that he's the bad guy, and yet here you are doing this thing, and there's no excuse for you to do that. Even if you don't like Neville, there's no excuse for you to do that to somebody who is not Neville. There's no excuse for it. So, I mean, I have a hard time relating with the zombies, and thus appreciating the attempt to turn it around on the audience and make us believe that the Omega Man is the bad guy in this. Not necessarily. So quite frankly, although I liked the movie, I didn't think it was really great. I felt like it added something to the story that we then got to see in I Am Legend that really, I feel like, was a bonus, a positive thing about I Am Legend. But other than that, it's just kind of cheesy, corny, not really well thought out in terms of the plot. So yeah, I mean it's okay, but not great. Charlton Heston is always good at whatever he does, kind of like Vincent Price. So, I mean, when you think about it, he was the Vincent Price of his time. I mean, he did Planet of the Apes, he did Soylent Green, as you can see here. He did Omega Man. I am Omega, I'm sorry, Omega Man. I mean, he was the man for his time, so to speak, when it comes to leading actors in roles such as these. So, yeah, I mean, you can't fault the guy for taking that role. I'm just saying, I don't think that role was necessarily perfect. I don't think that movie was as good as it could have been. It was okay. There's nothing wrong per se with the movie, but it's like a 6, maybe 6.5 out of 10 for me. And it really didn't hit home as much as the other two movies did. Which is why, immediately after I finished watching Omega Man, I went ahead and watched I Am Legend starring Will Smith. And this time around, for the first time actually, I watched the alternate theatrical version with the controversial ending. And yeah, it was really freaking good. Like, I'd never seen the alternate ending before, and I have to say, so freaking good. It perfect. If you look at The Last Man on Earth and then Omega Man, it's like a perfect amalgamation of both of them. And yeah, the special effects are no longer, practical. They're no longer as good as they could be. Now they're all CGI, and the CGI is kind of bland, kind of meh. But it does the trick. It's okay. It's not as good as it could be because it doesn't really hold up as well today as some of the other movies from around that era. But it's okay. If you're willing to suspend disbelief, it does the trick just fine. It's no worse than anything that you'll see in the Resident Evil movies, and, those are all right too. So, what I really like about this one is that they combine, from Omega Man, they take the concept of him being this guy kind of going a little loopy, driving a sports car around New York City on his own, been apart from society for too long, he's not around people enough anymore. They combine that. They take that aspect of the character from Omega Man and they put it into Will Smith's character here. And they also give you the characters that are kind of like the ones in Omega Man that are also immune to the virus. And they go even further in depth. This, honestly, I'm not even going to lie. A lot of people will find this controversial for me to state. This is a smarter film than either of the other two. It really is. Because when you look at the actual, science behind it, the way that they describe what's going on, the amount of detail that they give you, they don't give you a whole lot of detail. But the detail they do give you is far more advanced than anything you saw in either of the other two movies. So it's, quite frankly, undeniably a smarter film by and large than the other two movies. I didn't even realize that when I first went to see it because I had never seen the other two movies. And yeah, I had no context. Now that I have that context, I appreciate that a lot more about this movie. And then you factor in the whole concept from the original movie that, he's actually the bad guy, which would be lost. It would be something that's lost in the entire movie here if you watch the original ending. It kind of would be lost. But the alternate ending changes things so significantly that you actually get to see him looking at pictures of all the zombies slash vampires that he's killed, and there's this unspoken kind of sense that he gets it, that he understands, oh shit, I've been killing these people who technically might be alive. I'm the bad guy. You know what I mean? So he almost comes to terms with the concept that he's not innocent in all this. So I feel like that, because of that in the alternate ending, it's so much better. That alone makes the movie so much better because at least it adds that extra little bit of flavor and depth to the character. It makes you understand that, yeah, he understands that he's not innocent in this. And now he's going to do whatever it takes to rectify the matter in the right way. We don't know how he's going to do that, what his plans are, but at least he's taking the first steps now to rectify the mistakes he's made. And yes, the way that he eventually gets around to doing that is kind of one of those really moments. It's just like, really? You're calling back to that? But it works. It did the trick. And quite frankly, in the alternative version of it, it does the trick even better than in the original theatrical version. So if you haven't seen the alternate ending to this, I highly recommend it. It really adds depth and flavor to Will Smith's character here, and it makes the movie so much better. Quite frankly, out of all of them, I have to say this is probably my favorite now. I mean, I enjoy it so much more now because of that. I know a lot of people look at this and they see a movie that's just kind of okay or all right. But now that I've gone back and watched all three in order like that, and I have an appreciation for where everything came from that went into this movie, and I can see where it all came from and understand where it all came from, and I can see what they were trying to do, I really love this movie because I feel like they did it really fucking well. They conveyed all the things they needed to convey in a very good manner, in a very good way that works very well, particularly with the alternate cut. So, yeah, it's now my favorite one. I can see myself watching this alternate cut quite a bit more in the future. It's just been sitting on my shelf collecting dust because I remember thinking it was all right. And with the original ending, it is just all right. But with the new ending, adding a whole new layer of meaning to the story, it's better than all right now. Now it's like maybe even like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10 for me, quite frankly. So, yeah. Really liked I Am Legend here. Omega Man is okay. And if I had to rate them in terms of best to worst, I Am Legend, Last Man on Earth, and Omega Man. But they're all still pretty good to watch, and I do recommend watching them all in order to be able to kind of understand where everything came from that led to this. That will, I think, give you a better appreciation for this film. So, yeah. That's all I have to say about that. Thanks for watching, you guys. Catch you later. Peace.